My whole family was eating fondue beneath the blinding white snow of the Alps, dressed in brand new ski gear, smiling brightly in a photo drenched in sunlight, and I found out about it from a Facebook post my mother made. No message. No text. No invitation. Just a picture. Welcome to Family Ashes, where family secrets burn to cinders, but the one who tells the story is still standing in the wreckage. If one day, you discovered that your own flesh and blood had used your identity and your money to enjoy a luxury vacation, and deliberately hid it from you like you never existed, what would you do? Stay quiet to keep the peace, or tear down the entire system they've built on your back? Leave a comment if you've ever been the walking wallet in your own family. And if you think you've never been, are you sure? I'm Lauren Miller, 33 years old, living alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in Seattle. By day, I work as an accountant for a mid-sized tech company, not a glamorous job, but enough to live, enough to save, and most importantly, enough to help the people I love. Since college, I've been the one covering the bills when my parents were short, the one co-signing loans when my brother Ethan didn't have enough credit to qualify for student aid. I paid for his first semester. Then the next. Then the one after that, until it became routine. When my dad lost his job, I sent money for the mortgage. When mom needed a new car, I put it under my name. And Ethan? Well, he always forgot tuition deadlines, missed part-time shifts, failed a couple classes. I never raised my voice. I always told myself, if I don't carry this, who will? What I didn't realize was, the more you carry, the more people assume it's your job. And at some point, they stop seeing it as a favor and start treating it like a right. I don't remember exactly why I opened Facebook that morning. Maybe boredom. Maybe just muscle memory, scroll past forced smiles, tired status updates, clumsy pet videos. But then I stopped. Froze. My heart missed a beat as the photo appeared, sharp, bright, and completely detached from any memory I had. My father was sitting on the right side of a big wooden table, wearing the red parka I had just bought him for his birthday. My mother held up a wine glass, smiling softly the way she always did for the camera. My brother Ethan sat in the middle, wrapped in the cashmere scarf I had mailed him at Christmas. Next to him was his girlfriend, someone I never liked, holding up a phone for a selfie, her cheek pressed against his like she was born to be in that shot. And behind them, a landscape of endless snow, the Alps in winter. Unmistakable. Below the photo, a simple caption written by my mother, "Just us, the close ones." I stared at that sentence like someone had carved it directly into my chest with a knife. Just us, the close ones. Not me. No message. No check-in. No apology for my absence. No effort to explain it away. It was as if my absence was so natural, so expected, that no one even thought it needed to be addressed. I told myself maybe it was an old photo. A trip I had forgotten. Maybe they had gone on a trip like that while I was working or away on a business trip. But no. Every detail betrayed me. The parka I gave Dad was still brand new. The gloves Ethan was wearing were the exact model I ordered and shipped straight to his place during Black Friday. I remembered clearly because I had to text him 3 times just to get him to pick them up. Even the boots my mother wore were from a pre-order sale I had forwarded her weeks earlier. She'd replied, "No need, honey, I don't really have an occasion to wear them." Well, she had one now. An occasion to wear a full winter wardrobe, paid for by me. My hands were shaking slightly as I opened the banking app, my mind still spinning between hurt and disbelief. One swipe, and there it was. First transaction, United Airlines, $3,042. 6 round-trip tickets from San Francisco to Zurich. Then Hotel Alpenblick, $2,180 for a 4-star hotel in the heart of Zermatt. Next, Balloon Swiss Alps, $950, a hot air balloon tour over the mountains. Then came ski rentals, Gornergrat train tickets, fondue dinner at the Revolving Panorama restaurant, a string of charges totaling over $9,600, all billed to an emergency credit card in my name. A card I had opened 3 years ago, when my father was hospitalized, to be used for exactly 3 words, in case of emergency. And now it was an emergency. Just not the kind I'd expected. My throat tightened, not because of the money, but because of the sudden hollow space inside me. They hadn't just taken my money, they'd used me as a payment method. They opened me like a wallet, took what they needed, closed it, and walked away without looking back. And then they posted it online, celebrating themselves as the close ones. I used to think, if I don't help, who will? But in that moment, I understood, it wasn't that they didn't have other options, I was just the easiest one. And because I was so easy, I had been cut out of the very thing I was financing. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the $9,600. Then back at the photo. Their smiles. The steaming fondue pot. That neat little caption. I didn't just feel betrayed. I felt erased, quietly, decisively, without warning. And the worst part was realizing they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. I hadn't even caught my breath after seeing the avalanche of Swiss vacation charges flooding my credit card when Ethan's text arrived, like the final slice across a back already flayed open. He didn't text to apologize. Didn't ask if I had found out. Didn't try to explain. The message was only 7 words. She still doesn't know, right? Sent by mistake. I knew it instantly. That message wasn't meant for me, and that's exactly why it revealed everything, the planning, the deception, the casual relief they all felt in thinking I was still wandering in the dark, believing I was loved, respected, included. I stared at those words the way someone might stare at a scar that's just been ripped open. It didn't hurt with the sharpness of a new wound, it was deeper, slower. Like something inside me was coming apart, piece by piece. From someone who felt no remorse. From the same little brother who once called me the kindest sister in the world when I paid his first semester tuition. Now talking about me like I was an obstacle, temporarily asleep, not yet aware I'd been trampled. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't delete it either. I left it right there, like a living piece of evidence for what I was about to do. Then I stood up, walked straight to my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank account like a machine set to one purpose, no hesitation, no shaky fingers, no deep breaths. I went straight to the emergency credit card management section, the card I had opened after a midnight hospital scare with my dad, when we didn't have enough to cover the deposit. A card I had never used for myself, not once in 3 years. One click. Freeze account. The remaining balance locked instantly. For the first time in my life, I felt what control really meant. I called the bank next. My voice was calm, eerily so, even to myself. I said, I'd like to report a case of credit card misuse. By someone whose identity I know. The woman on the other end hesitated slightly. She was probably expecting a story about some stranger stealing my card info. But I didn't flinch. It's a family member. They used my personal data, my email, and my card to book an international vacation without my consent. I want to terminate all activity and flag this as fraud. My tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. My anger wasn't loud. It was a blade, cold, clean, and surgical. After the call, I opened the booking platform I had once used to arrange trips for my family, flights, hotels, tour packages. I hadn't expected they'd still be using the same account. But they had. They didn't bother making their own. Didn't bother changing the email. Didn't even remove my personal information from the profile. Inside the trip history section was a full itinerary, 6 plane tickets to Zurich, 2 hotel rooms in Zermatt, an off-road SUV rental, ski passes, Gornergrat train tickets, a dinner reservation at the Mountaintop Revolving Restaurant, and the highlight, a hot air balloon tour for 6. All booked under my name. My email. My travel wallet account. And in the attached documents section, scanned passports of every family member. Files I had uploaded back in 2019 when helping them plan a family trip to Oregon. Now reused like I was some unpaid travel assistant. I opened a new folder. Named it, Fraud Evidence. I dragged in every photo, receipt, screenshot, boarding pass, passport scan, confirmation email, and yes, even screenshots of their social media posts bragging about the trip. No hesitation. Then I composed an email to the platform's fraud department. My identity has been used without permission to complete a series of international travel transactions. Below is the complete documentation, including passport scans, booking confirmations, receipts, and supporting images pulled from your system. I attached everything. And hit send. Then I sat back. The room was silent. Outside, the sky was starting to shift, clouds pulling in. March in Seattle. The rain always came like clockwork. But this time, I didn't feel like I needed to seek shelter. I was the storm. And they didn't know yet that they were already standing in its eye. My phone vibrated for the first time at 6:03 a.m. The screen flashed Mom, no profile picture. The second time, it was Ethan. Then my dad. Then an unknown number, then Mom again, and on it went. 22 calls in under an hour. I didn't pick up. I just sat in my kitchen, watching the early morning light begin to filter through the window, hands wrapped around my coffee mug, heart hollow. Not the kind of hollow that feels broken. The kind that comes when a system finally collapses and you no longer feel responsible for fixing it. On the 23rd call, I answered. It was my dad. He didn't beat around the bush. Lauren, we're stuck in Zurich. The return flights got cancelled. Can you help us out, just temporarily, $4,500 so we can get back to San Francisco? We can talk more after. I paused. Then replied, slowly, no. Silence. I waited a few beats. Enjoy the rest of your trip, I said. Then I hung up. They returned home 3 days later. I didn't need to track the flight. Mrs. Langley, the neighbor across the street from my parents, texted me, they're back. Luggage is a mess. Your dad's limping. No one's smiling. I showed up that very morning. No warning. I parked across the street, wearing a long coat, my hair in a clean bun, holding a thick folder in one hand. As I stepped onto the porch, the scene looked like a play that had lost its script. Donna, my mom's best friend, barefoot in the driveway, screeching into her phone, Steve looking like someone had punched him mid-hangover, Ethan dragging a busted Samsonite suitcase up the steps while his girlfriend sat on it like some exhausted queen. My mother stood in the doorway, eyes tired. My father leaned against the wall like he was awaiting a verdict. I didn't say hello. Didn't need to. I walked straight to the door, looked them all in the eye, and opened the folder. $680. Non-refundable charges. Balloon ride tickets, one last hotel night, cancellation penalty. I want that back. You have 3 days. My mother blinked like she didn't understand English. My dad tried to speak, but I raised the folder higher. Every transaction's right here. Booking history. Passport scans. Hotel check-in photos. Confirmations using my email. Even your smiling faces in hotel lobbies, with timestamps. And, I paused, Ethan sent me a misfired text. The one that said, she still doesn't know. So now I do. And I'm not letting this slide. Ethan stepped forward, voice tight, you're overreacting. It was just a trip. We just wanted to relax. You didn't have to drag this into legal stuff. I turned to him, eyes unwavering. I'm not angry because I wasn't invited. I'm angry because you all exploited me, forged my identity, stole my information, used my money like I wasn't a real person. Then laughed behind my back. He rolled his eyes. You wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway. You don't know how to relax. I nodded slightly. You're right. It's hard to relax when I'm the one paying for everyone else to have fun. I closed the folder, turned back to my parents. 3 days. If I don't get the money, I'll be filing formal charges for identity theft and misappropriation of assets. I have every bit of proof I need. And I'm fresh out of patience. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't wait for their reaction. Didn't need anyone to call after me. didn't need explanations. Because for the first time, I didn't need them to understand me. I needed them to be afraid of me. The transfer hit my account at 9:43 p.m., exactly 3 days after the doorstep confrontation. No message. No subject line. No emoji or apology. Just a notification, $680 deposited. I didn't ask where the money came from. But I knew, the moment I got a text from Aunt Marianne. Uncle George paid it. But before he sent the money, he made Ethan stand and listen to a lecture for nearly an hour. The kind of speech you remember well into old age. I pictured it clearly, Ethan standing there, silent, hands shoved into the pockets of his hoodie, eyes darting anywhere but at the man in front of him. And Uncle George, standing firm, speaking to him like he was staring into the face of a failed copy of himself. According to Aunt Marianne, George ended the lecture with this: "You don't just owe money. You owe basic decency. And don't expect anyone to bail you out again." I nearly laughed. Not out of satisfaction, but because, finally, someone in this family had said out loud what I'd been thinking for years. I marked the file as paid, printed the receipt, and clipped it neatly into the folder labeled fraud evidence, as if it were a piece of documentation for a civil lawsuit. Then I went to bed. No dreams. No jolting awake. No lying there at 2 a.m. wondering, did I go too far? The next morning, I made coffee without checking my phone. Peace, rare, quiet, complete. But peace never stays long. About a week later, I received an email from Redwood University, where Ethan was enrolled. The subject line made my heart skip a beat: notice of delinquent account, financial responsibility concern. I frowned and opened the message. It stated that Ethan's tuition account had been suspended due to a $6,250 unpaid balance. But what made the blood drain from my face was the line at the bottom: as the financial guarantor on file, your credit may be impacted if payment is not received. I immediately called the university's financial services office. A woman named Jenna picked up, polite and composed. I gave her my name and got straight to the point. I never agreed to be Ethan Miller's financial guarantor. Yet your records list me as such. Why? She responded, yes, according to our system, you are the primary guarantor. We have an application on file with your name, phone number, and address. There's a signature as well. Would you like to see the scanned form? Yes. Send it right now. Less than 3 minutes later, a PDF landed in my inbox. Page 1, Student Information. Page 2, Financial Guarantor Agreement. And there it was, my name, my old Capitol Hill address, my cell phone number, and a signature. I stared at it carefully. It was eerily close. But not quite. The slant was off. The pressure too soft. The ending stroke didn't carry the same weight I'd used for the past decade. Someone had forged my name. And I knew exactly who. Ethan. The little brother I defended when he was temporarily suspended for cheating on a test. The same brother who never once thanked me when I paid his first semester of tuition without saying a word. The one who once called me the kindest person in the family when I covered his girlfriend's medical bill after she had an abortion she couldn't tell anyone else about. I had let so many things slide. Turned a blind eye more times than I could count. But this time? My eyes were wide open. I took a deep breath, opened the fraud evidence folder, and created a new subfolder called Forgery. I dragged in the scanned guarantor form. Then I started gathering documents with my original signature, my apartment lease, car insurance forms, last year's mortgage application. I screenshotted previous tuition transactions, matched them against IP addresses and timestamps. Finally, I drafted an email to the school with the subject, Urgent Fraud Report, Forgery by Student Ethan Miller. I attached everything. Included samples of my real signature. And wrote clearly. I have never signed any document assigning myself financial responsibility for Ethan Miller. The signature was forged. I am requesting an immediate investigation. I sent the email at 11:06 p.m. The apartment was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the yellow light falling across the hardwood floor. I didn't feel hurt anymore. I felt light. As if layers of fog in my mind had finally lifted, revealing the landscape beneath, the truth that, for years, I hadn't protected myself. And now I was finally starting to do it, one step at a time. No more backing down. No more looking away. No more pretending that blood ties meant safety. I didn't know exactly what made me drive to my grandfather's house that morning. Maybe I just needed a place where no one was going to guilt me, or call me, or knock on my door with feigned concern. Or maybe I was afraid that if no one else saw what I'd been through, I'd start questioning myself, wondering if I'd gone too far, if maybe they were right, if maybe I was the one who betrayed them. And I knew, if there was anyone who could look through the noise, who stood far enough outside the emotional tangle of my family to see the truth clearly, it was him. He lived alone in a small wooden house on the outskirts of Portland. The front yard was patchy with overgrown grass, the white fence flaking off paint, and a seashell wind chime that clinked gently every time the wind passed through the narrow porch. When I arrived, he was peeling an apple at the kitchen table, not wearing his glasses, not in a rush. As if he had known I'd be coming. I didn't waste time with small talk. I placed the printed university form on the table, pointed to the forged signature. Ethan signed this using my name. The school's holding me responsible. He didn't say anything for a long while. He flipped the page. Then again. Looked at me. His face wasn't surprised. Wasn't angry either. Just quietly, heavily disappointed, the kind that comes from having seen too much rot in a family for anything to shock you anymore. Did you report it? He asked. I did, I said. I sent them everything. Real signatures. Documentation. The works. He nodded once. Then stood up and walked into the back room. I stayed seated, didn't guess, didn't expect anything. A few minutes later, he came back holding a small wooden box, the brass clasp dull with time. He opened it, pulled out a stack of documents, and carefully picked out one. Then handed it to me. It was an old deed, faded at the corners, but still legible, transferring ownership of a piece of lakefront property and a cabin in Oregon. I've held on to this for over a decade, he said. It's yours now. I looked up, confused. For what? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me the way someone might look at a child who finally learned to tie her own shoes. Then he said, softly, but sharp enough to cut. Because in this whole family, you're the only one who ever grew up. I'll call the lawyer next week. I sat there holding the deed like it weighed 5 pounds. Not because of its monetary value. But because, for the first time in my life, someone in my bloodline was looking at me not with expectation, but with respect. Not as a breathing ATM. But as a person. I didn't play any music on the drive home. I let the car roll quietly down the highway, as if every passing mile was peeling away a layer of weight from my mind. I thought about the cabin. I'd only been there once as a child. It was cold, the fireplace didn't work right, and Ethan kept whining to go home because there was no Wi-Fi. I remember sitting on the porch after an argument with my mom, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the black lake so still it looked like glass. It was one of the rare moments I felt completely separate from everyone, but not lonely. Now, that cabin was mine. And no one else knew the lock code. A few days later, the messages started to come. Quiet. No declarations. Just fragments breaking off from the silence. One cousin, the same one who used to call me uptight when I refused to lend Mom more money to renovate the house, messaged. I heard what happened. Honestly, I don't know what to say. But I think you were right. Then a cousin in California, the one who sat with me at Grandma's funeral, wrote. My parents are pushing me into the same kind of financial corner. I can't believe you actually did it. What I've never had the guts to. You're not wrong. But the message that stopped me came from Brian, Ethan's best friend from high school. The same guy who once teased me for being the strict older sister when I made Ethan pay his phone bill back then. He wrote. At first I thought you overreacted. But after learning the whole story, I get it. And honestly, I respect you. No one ever does what you did. But you did. I sat still for a long time after reading that message. As if the tumor I'd been carrying, the guilt, the shame, the endless questioning of whether I was destroying a blood relationship, had finally been named and finally been declared not mine to bear. Turns out, what I thought was cutting ties was the only thing that let me see the whole picture. And most importantly, let me see myself. Clearly. Completely. And without apology, for finally living as a whole person. Ethan was officially suspended from school on a Monday morning. No dramatic fanfare, no weeping phone calls, no soap opera-style breakdowns. Just a system-generated email dropped into his inbox. Your student account has been suspended due to unresolved financial obligations. Please contact the financial office for further details. I knew about it because he forwarded it to me, no explanation, no punctuation. Just the same old move he'd made many times before, hand me the problem, wait for me to fix it. I let the email sit unread for 3 days. When I finally opened it, I felt nothing but a cold emptiness. Not even anger. Just confirmation, this time, no one came to his rescue. No more, can you help me just this once? No more, it's only temporary. No more, we're family, we stick together. The family was silent. No one asked. No one called. And Ethan, the brother who had always assumed I would buffer every consequence, was standing alone now. And I think, he knew it was real this time. I'd been living in the cabin for almost 6 months when winter rolled in. The small wooden house, perched on the edge of a lake in northern Oregon, was weathered and quiet. Brown painted siding. Slanted roof. Chimney that clicked and groaned every time the wind picked up. I replaced the linens, painted the window frames, and set a wooden table by the porch where I'd read in the golden afternoon light. No one called. No one visited. No texts from Mom asking if I was eating okay. No messages from Ethan asking for a card number. They disappeared like the whole story had never happened. Or more accurately, like they were hoping if they stayed silent long enough, I'd soften again. But I didn't soften. I got still. And I got free. The following spring, I received a letter in the mail. White envelope. No return address. I was about to toss it with the junk mail when I recognized the slanted handwriting on the front. I'd corrected that handwriting once, when he was 15, writing Christmas cards. It was Ethan's. The letter was short. 3 paragraphs. No excuses. No tears. No justifications. Ethan wrote that he knew he had crossed a line. That he hadn't just taken money, but had taken the trust I'd held onto for years. That he didn't expect forgiveness. But if I allowed it, he would find a way to pay it back, little by little, even if it took years. Not to redeem himself, but because he owed it to me. When I finished reading, I folded the letter slowly, carefully, like wrapping a wound that had already scarred. I didn't cry. I didn't feel warm. I felt quiet. Not peace, like soft music in the background. But the stillness of a door that had closed, and no one wanting to reopen it. I didn't write back. I didn't throw it away. I slid it into the bottom of my filing drawer, next to old bank documents, as a reminder, some betrayals don't need to be relived, just never repeated. One afternoon in June, I saw my mother at the grocery store. Still her, slightly hunched posture, neatly permed hair, the same worn handbag she'd carried since I was in college. I was one aisle over, near the juices. Between us were 2 carts filled with vegetables, almond milk, a few bags of cereal. She turned and spotted me. I didn't look away. She nodded. I nodded back. No smile. No questions. No tears. We passed each other like 2 people who had once shared a roof but now belonged to entirely different worlds. She didn't say, "I miss you." I didn't ask, "How have you been?" There was no reconnection. Only a quiet truth. That this time, the distance wasn't out of anger, it was because we both finally understood there was nothing left to hold on to. That evening, I drove back to the cabin. Sat on the porch. Watched the lake, smooth as glass. The wind moved through the pines behind me, brushing lightly against the freshly painted window frames. I poured myself a cup of hot tea, set it beside the book I'd been reading, and leaned back into the chair. No one called. No one needed anything. No one reached for me under the guise of family to mask a pattern of quiet, constant extraction. For the first time in years, I was living without being in service to anyone else. I didn't change. I just stopped giving. And they called that betrayal. I call it liberation. And I've never been more certain of anything in my life. What about you? Have you ever felt like a walking wallet in your own family? Like your presence wasn't needed, just your resources? Have you ever looked back and asked yourself, why do the people I love feel so entitled to take from me, while I feel guilty for saying no? It took me years to realize this. Not everyone you love will love you the way you deserve. That family, if it only survives through one-sided sacrifice and prolonged silence, isn't love. It's conditional dependence. I used to think if I were kind enough, patient enough, generous enough, they would eventually see my worth. But the truth is, people don't appreciate what they've never had to go without. I'm not telling this story for applause. I don't need anyone to call me strong. I'm telling it because I know someone out there is standing exactly where I stood. The silent provider. The co-signer. The tuition payer. The one who lent the car, covered the rent, shared every bite, until there was nothing left that felt like theirs. If you are that person, I just want you to hear this. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not cruel for saying enough. You are not the villain for pulling back love that was being exploited. You are simply learning to exist without melting under the hands of those who use the word family as a license to drain you. Tell me your story. Leave a comment if you've ever had to sever ties with your own blood just to survive. If you've had to step away, not because you hated them, but because you knew staying meant losing yourself. And if you haven't, if you believe family is forever, then I ask you. Are you sure? Are you sure that what you're clinging to is love? And not just fear of living without a role to perform? Because sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away. And the bravest thing you can do for the world is live a life not governed by misplaced gratitude. If you know someone who's being depleted, not because they're weak, but because they've gone too long without saying enough, share this story with them. Maybe this is the reminder they need. Maybe, for the first time, they'll understand. Stopping can be a form of love too.